You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.
Welcome to INTERFORM Podcast. I'm Ro on the radio. This episode of INTERFORM Podcast is brought to you by INTERFORM Make. So if you're interested in learning more about small batch manufacturing, go to interform.art/make. Now, my special guest today is Angel Divinity Renée. Now, I wanted to talk about how you decided to transition and how that's affected you both like negatively and positively. So let's start by what made you decide that you wanted to transition?
Well, it's almost my 1 year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I kind of made the decision around mid-February. That was when I truly decided it, because it's like being gay. You go bi before you go gay.
Okay.
I went non-binary before I went fully trans.
Okay.
And I remember it was a lot to do with the beauty standards that I was seeing. And I never felt that I was up to par with the beauty standards that I was trying to box myself into.
Oh.
But then I found that it wasn't the box that I needed to be in, if that makes sense. Like, I was seeing the people I was looking up to, and I found that most of them were trans women specifically. And it kind of made me think like, oh, I might be in the wrong box.
Okay.
And I kind of need to branch out a little bit. And I found that being a woman, finding my femininity, my true inner femininity was really something I needed to do. And honestly, I really haven't found that much negatives to it. Of course, there's the social consequences to being trans, but I knew that before I went into it, before I signed up for it.
Right.
And like, of course, there are family matters, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But overall, I thankfully have had such a warm embrace from my friends and like my true close people. So that has made the transition super smooth. And I've kind of gotten to find my own way of doing it rather than feeling like I needed to follow a certain amount of steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, so as far as your family, what I hear a lot is that sometimes and this is what can be with anything, but like you have to make your own family. Like when you are not getting the support that you need, then it's time to, create your own family. Is that something that you are doing or that you did, is just kind of create your own support system in your own family?
Very much that, yes.
Because you're a model, so I'm assuming that, maybe some people in the modeling community.
Yeah, I actually live with someone who's done modeling with INTERFORM. But I have been very true to finding my own family. When I first came out as gay, I didn't feel like I got the true support that I needed back at home. And I found that I needed to find it somewhere. So I was really finding these close people that I knew I could trust. And now I feel like I have a big family. And when I came out as trans, it really didn't feel like I needed to do that process all over again, which was a nice surprise, because kind of being trans is a step up. And it's kind of a big leap from being just gay.
Okay.
So I was very grateful for the people I had in my life because I didn't have to go through the struggles I did when I was first finding myself.
Absolutely. Did you grow up here in Northwest Arkansas?
Yes, born and raised.
Okay. And how has that been as far as the support, right? Because I feel like there can be good support and there can be support that is non-existent.
Yeah.
Especially in the state that we live.
Very much, yes. Well, thankfully, doing drag actually has really helped me find a huge community. I've been in the nightlife for a minute now because of it, and it has helped me find some lovely people that I can now call to when I'm in Little Rock, when I'm in Conway, when I'm in Fort Smith, anywhere that I have to go for those things. I always know I have someone or a few people to rely on or ask for help, or if I need to spend the night, something like that. But growing up, thankfully, I never had that issue of feeling like I was truly alone, because I always felt like I had support from friends. And I did struggle, though, when it came to family a little bit. Just you know how a lot of queer people, we kind of go
sure.
through the same things when it comes to family, because a lot of family, especially in this area,
Yes.
just aren't supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was me having to turn and look for the good rather than keeping myself stuck in the bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
So thankfully now I have people all over the state that I can turn to rather than feeling like I was stuck, which I feel like I can't exactly remember when, but I think in around grade school, more middle school, I really had to kind of turn and look and to myself and find the life that I wanted to live. If I wanted to live in fear and hide myself, or if I wanted to be out and proud. Most of the time I had people calling me names anyway. And so I was like, there's no reason to hide because they already know what I'm trying to. So there was really no point for me to hide, really.
What advice would you give to maybe some young people who are struggling with their identity or struggling to find that community that you have? What would you say to them to kind of guide their decisions or their journey?
I feel like it all comes in divine timing. It all comes when it's supposed to. That's how I feel. And I think that we try to rush things and we feel like today is the day, like we have to do it. But just remembering that tomorrow always comes. And even if, you know, you're struggling and you don't exactly know who you are, you don't know what you're doing, it's okay because it takes time. It's a process. It's not going to happen just overnight.
That is important.
And I feel that there's a lot of these ultimatums that we give ourselves. And like with my family, I was terrified that they wouldn't accept me or that I would be thrown out, or because that was a legitimate fear growing up, was that I would be thrown on the street. And I remember I'd have to call friends and ask them to spend the night because I was coming out. Those type of things, just to make sure in case I was literally just thrown out on the street. So I feel like we're giving ourselves all of these huge ultimatums when I find that no matter what happens, if you're doing what's right for you, then everything will work out just fine. As long as you follow your heart and you do what you feel is right for yourself, not what you feel like is right for your family
And that's
or
it.
for your friends, what's right for you, then you're on the right track.
I love that. I definitely, I need that advice in life anyway, besides that. But let's talk about, and this is, like I said, it's a touchy subject. SB 43 is, in my opinion, it is an attack on the drag community and the trans community.
Absolutely.
And I want to know your thoughts about it.
So first off, the thing that's actually really getting to me is the fact that all of these news articles and everything that people are sharing is just talking about the drag side of things because that's what the bill is like titled.
Right.
That's what they're putting at the forefront.
Okay.
So everyone's like, for the people who don't necessarily care for drag or that's not their thing, they're like, oh, it's fine. It's just drag. But what it feels like a lot of people are missing out on is the fact that it's actively trying to erase trans people. It's actively trying to make it to where I could get arrested if I left my front door looking the way I do now. And it has been a struggle these past few weeks.
Absolutely.
Not gonna lie, because the fear of not being able to just be openly myself in public, just walking to the mall, just going to get a coffee, something like that. It's not just about drag being in a public eye. It's about people who don't identify as the gender they were assigned to at birth. That's what it's about. And especially, I cannot remember the name of the bill, but there's another bill that's trying to be passed right now in Arkansas as well that's trying to—
With the bathrooms?
Yes. That's trying to ban people who aren't assigned that gender at birth to use the bathroom that they would like to. And with these bills coinciding and both trying to be passed, it's creating such a negative and unsafe space for trans people specifically and non-binary individuals, just because, especially for the youth, children who want to be someone else other than they were assigned can't even perform in a school play if this bill passes. I can't perform at karaoke if there are more than 2 people there because it's considered an event.
If there's more than 2 people,
2 to 3
considered
people.
an event.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The problem I have with the bathroom situation is I have a 13-year-old son and he has friends, and I know how, I think we all do, we know how cruel kids are.
Very, yes.
And I feel like with the bathroom bill, it is going to put trans kids at risk, like physically and mentally.
Yes.
And that I have a huge problem with that. Like, and I feel that maybe if someone thought outside of the box and maybe had a little bit of empathy, they would understand how important that is.
Yes. Like, I find that a lot of people are just not sticking to thinking about themselves. I find that especially a lot of people in government are trying to, we're seeing it with all different kinds of minority groups, that they're trying to attack and trying to place a hold on these certain groups of people.
And erase.
Exactly. Trying to pretend like they don't even exist. And it's sad because we do exist. We are here. And even if these bills get passed, it's not like we're just going to go away.
And that's the strange part, because it's like, do they think by passing this bill it will just erase people in general and make trans people go away?
Like, I'm just going to change my mind one day. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
maybe they are right.
I don't feel like that's realistic.
It's not.
Another issue I have with the SB 43 is because I feel like it is demonizing trans people and people who do drag, because there's always this twisted narrative or this perspective that that drag queens are harming our children, right? That trans people are harming kids, and kids don't need to be around drag shows. Mind you, these are the same people who will let their 8-year-old sons go to Twin Peaks, go to Hooters. So the problem isn't really drag queens.
No.
The problem is that you need something to blame it on. And that's, I mean, and this is just a personal opinion, but I find a problem with that, because if that's not okay, then it's definitely not okay for you to take your son's baseball team to Hooters.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's definitely a double standard. It feels very hypocritical. It feels like they don't, what I see it as is that they don't see it being okay, and they don't see it being right. Like, oh, why are there drag queens on my TV, for example? Why are there drag queens at my brunch? And they don't accept it, so they find that they need to place a reason to why they don't find it, because we're harmful to their children, so their children won't be open to it. You know, when I was growing up, I used to watch RuPaul's Drag Race when I was in high school, and I specifically remember my dad walking in, and he looked at my TV, saw what I was watching, and then my mom walks in, and he goes, "Do you see?" And this is back in the day whenever they still think of me as son, but my father went, "Oh, you see what our son is watching right now?" In such a negative tone.
Yikes.
And it was just on TV. And so I can see how my dad's opinion is what the the people in power, that's what they're thinking too.
Absolutely.
And so they're just trying to put a reason to stopping people's joy.
Because without that, they don't have a reason. They still don't, in my opinion.
Right.
But they have to put it on something, because it's like, well, I don't want my kids going to drag shows. It's like, they're not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know, drag shows are bad for kids and they're harming our kids. Oh, well, then we got to stop it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like attaching that negative perspective to it is actually, or they think it helps. And I think that's the problem.
Well, it's interesting to me, because I just think if you don't want your kid attending a drag show, just don't take your kid to a drag show. Why are you attacking everyone else? Because there may be a loving mom and dad, just a plain cis heteronormative couple, and they're just wanting to take their kid to a drag show for them to experience it. There's no harm in that. So it's crazy to me how people will have an opinion, but they can't keep that to themselves.
No.
They have to try and stop other people from feeling it too. And like literally, if this bill passes, there will be no drag at Pride.
Oh.
Huh?
How is that even? It's
Like,
not Pride.
It doesn't make sense.
Right?
And it says that there are no trans people at Pride either. It's like, that is what Pride is.
Yes.
That is what people are. Marsha P. Johnson threw the first brick. We can thank trans women specifically for really making an impact on the LGBTQ plus community and the growth that we have made. And it feels like we're going back 50, 60 years.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's getting a little frustrating because at times you'll see the news and I'll wake up and be like, what year is it? What year?
Literally. Is this 2023 or 1950? Yeah.
Like, there's just so much to unpack that. So where do you see this going? Like, let's say the bill passes. What happens? What happens? How do you feel? How do you operate? What do you do?
When thinking about this, because when the Senate passed it, the committee, when they passed it, it really got me to start thinking like this may become our reality very quickly.
Yeah.
Because it was unanimously passed. A part of me is scared and a part of me wants to hide. And I remember I even had a drag show the night it passed the Senate and I didn't even want to go. I was like, I'm so over it. But then my next thought hit and I thought, no, I cannot do what they want me to do, which is hide. I cannot do what they want me to do, which is be erased and to not exist. If it passes, I'm not leaving. I'm not going. I'm not going to stop being who I am because some people find that what I do isn't right. Because what they're doing by trying to actively erase people,
is
by
not
trying
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By trying to make people hide, by trying to make people fear, that is not what's right. And we already have protests in talk. Me and my friends were really trying to get things together because I've never gotten to actively try and make a protest happen. But I find that there was one that happened in Little Rock, but I find that we need more.
Okay.
And I think that NWA is the place to do it.
Okay.
And I don't know if we want it to be in Fayetteville or Bentonville or both. But seeing what the BLM protests did in Bentonville and Fayetteville,
Right.
Seeing those and being a part of those felt powerful. Being able to spread the truth and spreading our voices and making everyone feel heard. I felt that was so important. And I think that that's the same thing that needs to happen here. Being in the public eye, seeing what it's doing to people, that's what's important. Because there are a lot of people that aren't even paying attention to the fact that this is affecting the trans community.
Absolutely. It's like, it's not my problem. Right.
It's not affecting just a hobby, which a lot of people do drag for.
Sure.
It's affecting people's livelihoods.
Exactly.
And so I will not stop. That's for sure. I'm not going to be hidden or shunned or feared.
I love it. My thing is, how does this work? Like, let's say, when if the bill gets passed or whatever, like, are you gonna call the cops on someone? Like, I can't see someone taking energy out of their day to call the police because someone is not dressed the way they think they should be dressed. Like, I'm trying to figure out how this is all going to work. But they will.
That's the unfortunate part, is that we've seen that people will just find reasons. If they don't like what they're saying, they will call and they will try to get it stopped.
So the Karen level is about to be at 100.
I'm afraid so.
At this point. It bothers me because I know there are so many other more important things to clog the police lines with, other than I don't like the
things
way
that actually matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're going over the
fact that it's comfortable is even more, challenging.
I what my hope is that someone just sees me and thinks I'm a woman and they go on with their day, because what we're being classified with trans people is that we're being classified as drag queens. They aren't considering this to be our identity.
Okay.
That's a big issue for this, is they're not seeing us as people. They're seeing us as a gimmick. They're because there are a lot of trans people that do not do drag. But they're going, and even though I do drag, that doesn't excuse the many people who don't. And now all of those people are going to just be considered gimmicks, just considered people who put on makeup and perform for some dollar bills at a club. That's what we're all going to be seen as.
Their whole identity is
Right.
just going to be seen as a gimmick or a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm still floored by the hypocrisy,
Yes.
and by the prioritizing of something that doesn't need to be prioritized. But let's talk about some good things, because I'm gonna start getting angry.
I've been angry, so
Girl,
I'm able to just kind of reel it back. But
I'm trying my best. So what's next for Angel Divinity? What are some things that you have coming up that you're really excited about?
well,
Because like I said, you model, so you be on the shoots.
I try. I try to stay in front of a camera because I do love it.
You're very good.
Thank you. But I have a lot of competing coming up. I'm in about 3 competitions at the moment.
Okay.
Putting a lot of pressure on myself, but you know what? I'll make it through. I have 3, one in Fayetteville at C4,
Okay.
one in Little Rock at Trinity Nightclub, and then another one at Sway in Little Rock.
Okay.
They're all just different competitions, and a thing about drag is that you kind of have to get titles in either pageants or competitions. You have to have titles behind your belt to become more known and to become more of a seasoned entertainer.
Oh.
So if you start winning more, your name starts getting spread out more. You start getting more bookings, which means more money.
Yes.
So that's why I've only been doing drag for a little over a year, and that's why I'm really trying to just get my name out there, trying to get my drag scene, and trying to show people what I can do.
Absolutely. What would you say some of the similarities and differences are between being a model and doing drag? Like, what are some of the, I feel like, okay, I'll tell you, number one, doing drag or being a drag queen is way harder.
Yeah,
There is so
it's a
much
little
involved because
there
as
is.
a model, you take pictures. You have to change for the clicks. You have to make sure your posture's in a different way. You as a drag queen are a performer. Like, you have to put your whole body into it.
It's a lot more rigorous on set as opposed to offset, which I find is the opposite for modeling. Because I feel with modeling, a lot of it is off camera. A lot of it is trying to make sure you keep your skin right. You keep yourself in check. You keep, you're making sure that you're doing the things so you look good on camera.
Right.
Meanwhile, with drag, there is a lot that goes behind the scenes. But that big moment when you're on stage and you're performing is where you kind of get the money, get the credit, get all of that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a lot more dancing, a lot more sweating, a lot more all of the above when it comes to drag.
You have to have a personality.
Yeah. On and off the stage. Because the moment you step into a club, eyes are on you.
Right.
And when you are seen doing something bad, if you are seen being disrespectful to someone, if you're seen, not being kind to the staff at the club, that spreads around. That word goes around, and not just in the city, in the whole state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. So it's kind of like you're like all eyes are on you, besides being on stage, but all eyes are on you anyway. That's a heavy responsibility.
I guess. I feel like
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
it is a big old crown. Yes. I feel like it's the same with modeling, though, in a sense. When we had a fashion week at Crystal Bridges, when you're walking into that space, you try to be as respectful as possible.
Sure.
Try to be ready for when they need you. Try to be kind to everyone that's working with you. Being respectful of the clothes, being respectful of the hair that the hairstylist did for you and the makeup artist.
Yes.
I find that there is still a lot that goes with modeling, as in the spread of word. Because again, I find that if someone in charge hears that you're being disrespectful to people,
Ciao.
exactly. I bet you can understand that
Absolutely.
hearing little whispers about different people.
I promise. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you want people to know, where they could reach Angel Divinity? You have a Instagram or a Twitter, Snapchat, all that.
All the above. Instagram, for my drag, it's the.angel.divinity. For just regular, it's angel.d.renee. That's the one I care about the most. And I find that the last thing that I feel I need to put a stamp on one more thing, make it just really known.
Absolutely.
That no matter what happens, we're still going to be here.
Right.
We're still going to be present. And for youth specifically, they need to know that just because the government we have now is trying to put bans on who we are as people doesn't mean that you should hide. Does not mean that you should live in fear, because like I said earlier, tomorrow always comes.
I love that. That is wise words from the Angel Divinity. I'm Ro on the radio. Make sure you follow up with us on interform.art. You can follow me on Instagram, RO_on_the radio, all one word. New account. Like I said, we'll talk about that later. Thank you so much for joining us, Angel Divinity, and we'll see y'all next time.
You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.